Greetings, Benjamin J. from Ben's Trains with another in the series. Well, this is that Commodore Vanderbilt that showed up yesterday with the contactor that was worn all the way through. And it's been about 24 hours since I touched up the paint and oiled it. And as you can see, this looks 1,000% better. And this was in absolutely terrible condition. I still haven't done anything with the oxide on the wheels or the push rods yet. But just wanted to show that this was indeed the same locomotive. So the oil has penetrated the paint. Still a bit of oil that hasn't penetrated yet, but not much. And I usually just let these things set until the oil is completely absorbed into that paint. And if you don't want to wait that long, you can wipe it off. But the longer it sets, the better the results will be. Anyway, turn on the power. I'll take this around. This locomotive is just running just absolutely perfectly, as you see. That's 50% power. So I still can't figure out how it got so much runtime on it without affecting the gearing. The gearing seems to be absolutely perfect. There's no problem with it at all, and yet that main contactor is worn completely through on both sides. So, like I said, I don't think this was stop-and-go playware. I think this was some kind of display where it was put on a rail and just let it run. I have no idea at all how it could have gotten so much wear on that main contactor. I mean, both sides are worn completely through. And yet the gearing is fine. There's no problem with the motor. There's no problem with the E-unit. This thing runs really, really well. It's really surprising. Anyway, I just wanted to do a quick follow-up video. You know, this was in really, really terrible condition when I took it out of that box. And as you can see, this actually looks quite good. Is it perfect? No, it isn't. Far from it. But it was really, really inexpensive, and it runs really, really well. And now that I've touched up the paint, this actually looks quite acceptable. And this is pre-war, so this locomotive is close to 80 years old. And with the main contactor being worn completely through, it just makes you wonder where it was and how it got so much runtime. And yet it runs perfectly. There's no gearing problem, there's no wear, there doesn't appear to be any. And the locomotive runs just splendidly. Plenty of power. As you see, it just runs great. Nice, smooth, steady speed all the way around the rail. Now I did add the headlight, of course. And it actually worked quite well. So I'm really pleased with this. You know, and I've just got to say it, don't overlook the junk. And this thing was just in absolutely dreadful condition when I took it out of that box. Just terrible condition. And a few minutes work, lubing and tuning and then touching up the paint, and this actually looks quite acceptable. Considering its age and the amount of runtime it's had, it's just amazing that it runs at all. And yet it runs just splendidly. Now, I did replace the brushes, but as far as the overall locomotive itself, I haven't done anything to it at all. I cleaned up the paint and repaired the damage in the body. The mounting plate was really, really bent, and the rear of the locomotive was actually scraping the rail. So I got that repaired and did basic cleanup on the motor, replaced the brushes, lubed it, tuned it, and then touched up the paint, added the headlight, and this locomotive is just running absolutely splendidly. Like I said, it's far from perfect, but it was just absolutely dirt cheap. You know, I got this, the original track, and an additional double reduction motor for $12. Really difficult to beat that. Anyway, I just wanted to do a follow-up video on this locomotive. As I always stress, don't overlook the junk. And that's all this thing was. It was junk. And I had no idea if it was going to run or not. But I'm buying these things now just for the challenge of getting them running. And in this case, it took 2 minutes to get this locomotive running. And after that, it was just clean up, lube and tune. I replaced the brushes, gave it a thorough cleaning, lubricated the axles, of course, added that headlight, and I've got a brand new original Marx Commodore Vanderbilt that was made back in the 30s in just really great running condition. And now that I've touched up the paint, this actually looks quite respectable. I don't think anyone would object to owning this locomotive. It runs good, it looks nice, it was absolutely dirt cheap. It came with a bunch of track, all rusty of course, just like the locomotive itself was. And it came with an additional double reduction motor, and it was $12. Really difficult to beat that. Anyway, I just want to do a quick video on this. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email. BENZTRAINZ@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for watching.